Hello there, welcome to Cool Talk Talks. And yes, it has been a very, very long time. I've been super busy this year, and what can I say? In order for me to put out videos weekly like I used to up till about a year ago, I would have to put in less production and just wing it a little bit more. Been very, very busy. But every year I do bring out my Oscar list of who I believe will win the Oscar and what my particular choices would be. I also have a grievance with the Oscars. I mean, I've been following the Oscars, I would say, the last 50 years. I haven't missed it. And yet, I'm not excited this year at all. None of the movies move me in any way whatsoever. I really don't care. That's where I am at this point. And it makes me wonder if the Oscars are even relevant anymore. Um, so I've heard the complaints before in the past from other people that gave up on the Oscars before I did, in stating things like they don't like the politics of the Oscars, or they never heard of those movies that are being nominated. And while I agree with a lot of that, at the same time, I've always cut the Oscars some slack because of the Oscars, I have seen a lot of good movies. I mean, just last year, let's look at the list of nominees that we had last year. We had Oppenheimer, which is the one that won. I like Poor Things, Past Lives, Barbie, The Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, American Fiction, Killers of the Flower Moon. All quality films that I would have missed if it wasn't for the Oscars and list of nominees that you can follow. But this year, I feel that the Oscars have become even more irrelevant than usual. Part of it has to do with the new standards that they're following right now, and also the diversity tactics that they're implementing in the films that can be nominated. And what it does is that it hinders the films, other quality films that are actually pretty good, that could pick up a nomination, and we never heard of them. All right, but so let me backtrack a little bit. I want to talk about a video that I saw on YouTube from Elvis Menezes. He posted a video, and the title was Why Audiences and the Oscars Drifted Apart. But basically, going back to the 1950s and 1960s, 90% of all Best Picture winners were in the top 10 blockbusters of that year. And if we move forward to the 1970s, all the Oscar winners in the 1970s were in the top 10 blockbuster winners. Some of them were number one. Example, let's just go through this. The French Connection, The Sting, Rocky, Godfather 1, Godfather Part 2, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Kramer versus Kramer, The Deer Hunter, and Annie Hall. All of them were in the top 10 blockbusters of that year. Now, you do notice that all the films that I just mentioned, if they were made today, they probably wouldn't be in the top 10 blockbusters, because we have superhero films and all that we're going to address at this point. In the 1980s, 70% were blockbusters, so a little less, not too bad. In the 1990s, only 50% were blockbusters. In the 2000s, 30% of the Best Picture winners were in the top 10 box office winners. In the 2010s, none of them. None of the Best Picture winners were in the top 10. The movies became smaller. And I would say to that that it's okay if the movies are smaller. If the smaller films that didn't make that much money are good films, the nominees come out and they tell us these are good movies, quality films. You can go see them. You'll, indulge yourself in very, very good movies. However, the blockbusters that we have today are Marvel films, DC films for the most part. So we've gotten into franchises, prequels, sequels, and reboots. That's where we are. Hollywood apparently is not investing a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of marketing in serious, good movies. Okay, here's how it goes. We have not had a Best Picture winner that's a blockbuster, that's in the top 10 box office winners of the year, except for two. Since 2003, 21 years ago, we had Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And then between then and Oppenheimer, which was just last year, that's another top 10 box office blockbuster. It made $1 billion. Now, Oppenheimer is almost like an outlier where, okay, it made $1 billion. However, it's not. It fits the type of film that Oscars like, semi-biopic and historical and so forth. 2 decades where none of the nominees were blockbusters. So the quality of the expensive films have dropped, and the good movies are the smaller films. Um, Now, movies like Top Gun Maverick, Avatar, yes, they have been nominated, but everybody knows they're not going to win. But anyway, without more ado, let's just go ahead and talk about this year's Oscar nominees, even though I am disappointed in the list that we have to deal with. Okay, let's go into the acting categories. Best Actor, Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing, Adrian Brody for The Brutalist, Timothy Chalamet for A Complete Unknown, Sebastian Stan for The Apprentice, and Ray Fiennes for Conclave. All right, all deserving, all good. And if I had to say my choice, that's a tough one. That is a tough one. A lot of people predict that it's going to be Adrian Brody, and I'm kind of leaning towards Adrian Brody. If Adrian Brody wins, I will be happy. It was a very deserving performance. But I think my prediction is going to be Timothy Chalamet. Okay, I think he's going to win. Now, there was some AI controversy in reference to the movie The Brutalist. And when I read about it, I don't think that, because it has to do with AI interfering or tweaking the Hungarian words that Adrian Brody and Felicity Jones spoke. I don't think it's a big deal, but because Hollywood, the actors are the ones that are nominating. And anything they might even just take a stand and say, well, I'm not going to nominate an actor, or I'm not going to vote for an actor or film that used AI. They might do that. If that happens, until Timothy Chalamet gets a shoe in. But regardless, Timothy Chalamet is deserving. Now, moving up right along. Best Actress, Demi Moore for The Substance, Mikey Madison for Honora, Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here, Carla Sofia Gascon from Emilia Perez, and Cynthia Erivo for Wicked. Real quickly, Carla Sofia Gascon, the first trans woman to be nominated Best Actress in the Oscars, but she put her foot in her mouth, a lot of tweets. I think her performance wasn't bad. It was just a bad movie, badly written. Now, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked actually surprised me. That is a quality performance. So now we're down to three. There's three front runners. It used to be Demi Moore and Mikey Madison. Demi Moore in The Substance, Mikey Madison for Honora. But now Fernanda Torres from Brazil in the film I'm Still Here, despite it being in Portuguese and all, she is picking up a lot of traction. Now the votes are already in, but don't be surprised if Fernanda Torres sneaks her way in. It's a really tough call. And I'm going to say that Demi Moore and Mikey Madison were the two, and I'm going to go for Mikey Madison. Okay, I think Demi Moore's nomination is going to be her award, and that's going to be it. But Mikey Madison and Honora, she really, really moved me. And she is my choice, and I'm going to say my prediction. Best Supporting Actor by Guy Pearce in The Brutalist, Yuriv Borisov in Honora, Edward Norton in A Complete Unknown, Kieran Culkin in Real Pain, and Jeremy Strong in The Apprentice. The momentum seems to be that Kieran Culkin is going to win for A Real Pain. He's won almost all the other awards in reference to this. So I'm going to say that the prediction is going to be Kieran Culkin. He's going to win. However, my choice, if I had my way, Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. Guy Pearce has been there for a long time. I'm surprised he hasn't been nominated before, all the way since way back in Memento and so forth, LA Confidential and all those films. But despite seeing all those movies, until you see The Brutalist, you will not be prepared for this industrialist, arrogant multimillionaire that comes forward that Guy Pearce personifies. And when he's on the screen, he kind of dominates. He doesn't overbear or overwhelm Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody holds his own, but just barely. Guy Pearce is mesmerizing, but it's going to be Kieran Culkin. Best Supporting Actress, Isabella Rossellini in Conclave, Zoe Saldana in Emilia Perez, Felicity Jones for The Brutalist, Monica Barbaro in A Complete Unknown, and Ariana Grande in Wicked. By the way, I really liked Ariana Grande. I really like Monica Barbaro. Worthy. So Felicity Jones in The Brutalist, some people said she didn't get enough film time, but the movie was 3.5 hours, and she was in half the film. So, yeah, she put in her time. Isabella Rossellini was solid, but she only came out for a few minutes. Zoe Saldana, despite the backlash that Emilia Perez has suffered, it's going to be her. Zoe Saldana, prediction and choice. Okay, so we're down to Best Picture now. Conclave, Emilia Perez, Honora, Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here, The Substance, The Brutalist, A Complete Unknown, and Dune Part 2, and Wicked. Now, I'll repeat, I find it a very weak list. I enjoyed Wicked, I'll give it that. It is a popcorn entertainment film. I think it's, with the money that it's made, I think that's its own reward. And there is a Wicked Part 2 coming down the pipe next year. But Wicked's not going to win. Emilia Perez, 13 nominations. You've heard the backlash. The problem with Emilia Perez, that it got 13 nominations, is we know why it got 13 nominations. And it's diversity politics, I'm sad to say. It did not deserve the Best Picture nomination. There's several other nominations where I also believe it did not deserve. It definitely does not deserve 13. And it definitely does not deserve Best Picture. So by looking down the list, The Substance was good. It's a good film. Not Best Picture quality in any other year or in the past 80s and 90s that I mentioned in 2000. Never would a movie like The Substance come up. So where am I with all of this? I don't think Conclave was as great. I think the last 20 minutes kind of fell apart for me. I mentioned Emilia Perez. Honora is very good, but it doesn't seem like a Best Picture winner. Nickel Boys, I'm Still Here. The Substance I mentioned. The Brutalist is a very good film, but it's a very cold film. Not a favorite. If The Brutalist wins, I'll be okay with it because you see the quality behind it. The movie has a cold soul, but it has a soul. Honora is the film that I enjoyed the most. It was funny, and it ended in a way that I did not expect coming. And there's always Mikey Madison's performance that carried the film. A lot of slapstick humor and all of that. Not the kind of film that I would have expected to win Best Picture, but a very good movie. So, who's going to win? I'm going to say prediction is going to be The Brutalist. My choice among a very weak list this year would be Honora. I didn't mention Dune Part 2. I saw Dune Part 2 way earlier in the year. And by the way, if Dune Part 2 were to win, I would also be okay with it. I think Dune Part 2 has not been given the love. And the director, Denis Villeneuve, has never, I hope I pronounce his name right, he's never been nominated. And that's a cry that the director of Emilia Perez is nominated, but the director of Dune Part 2 is not. A film that is way above Emilia Perez. All right, and a couple of things. Netflix is the one that distributed Emilia Perez. They campaign hard, and their publicist is the same publicist that Harvey Weinstein used to have. And there's a lot of mudslinging going on. There's a lot of things that are happening that are very, you can probably hear the little birds singing out there. Nice, isn't it? But going back, there's a lot of mudslinging going back and forth. Accusations towards Emilia Perez. Some of it well-deserved. AI accusations going towards The Brutalist and all of that. And that's always been happening. It's been happening since the very beginning. But again, the Oscars are becoming more and more, in my opinion, irrelevant. I think TV is the way to go. There's a lot of good TV material that is out there, mini-series, series, and all that. We're watching a lot of these films on TV. And the way things are going right now is just, I don't know. It's that the films are weak, and it's almost like not worth it. So to get a person to pay his money to go out to the theater and buy a ticket and see these movies is becoming, for a lot of people, harder and harder, including myself. Something else. The voters are becoming a younger and younger group, and more diverse as well, which is why you see foreign films being nominated more and more for Best Picture. Best Actor. That's happened in the past, but more so in the last few years. In a nutshell, that is my take on the Oscars. It's this Sunday night. I hope to enjoy it. What do I have to look forward to? I would be happy if Dune Part 2, Honora, or The Brutalist wins. My choice in the matter, I enjoyed Honora the most, but again, I will repeat, Honora does not seem like a Best Picture film. It's good, just not that good. I look forward to seeing Adrien Brody or Timothée Chalamet win. Now, Brody has won in the past, so Timothée Chalamet has put in very good work in the last couple of years. Best Actress, wow, that's a horse race, okay? The three actresses that I mentioned, I'm going to lean toward Mikey Madison. I hope she does win, but I'll be happy if Demi Moore or Fernando Torres picks it up. All right, I mentioned the supporting actors and so forth, and now I'm rambling. So on that note, everybody, I promise as Cool Talk Talks, we'll put out more videos. We're going to dwell on history as well. And once in a while, I want to bring up some trivial nonsense that I bump into on the social media from time to time. And I would like to share my opinions about these things with you. So, on that note, do me a favor, send me your likes, send me your clicks, or better yet, subscribe. This is Cool Talk Talks.